Hey CertSpring fans, welcome to today's presentation on how CertSpring and microlearning work together. So my name is Dwayne Wells and I am a co-founder here at CertSpring, and today I'm going to be talking through the hows, the whys, and the whats of using CertSpring to create a microlearning or micro certification program. At the end of this presentation, you should have a pretty good idea of how we do things, why we do things, and what the approach is to using CertSpring for creating microlearning programs. So let's talk a little bit about the way that e-learning is done today and some of the problems that exist with e-learning. So right now there's a lot of confusion when a company wants to decide how to create an online learning program, and a lot of that confusion comes around where to start, how long it should take, what kinds of resources are needed to throw at the problem, and it really makes it difficult for someone who's not from the learning world, or someone that doesn't have a background in curriculum development or teaching, to really think about how they're going to put together an e-learning program. And oftentimes the software that's out there that's available today, it doesn't really address the simple needs that most people have when they want to put together an online learning program. That creates a learning curve for software, and a lot of the current learning management systems that are out there today aren't designed to let people that don't understand or have a background in creating learning programs to be effective. The next problem that a lot of people run into when they are trying to put together an e-learning program is how to manage content. So the videos, images, text, all of those, the audio, all of those content pieces have to actually obviously go into a learning management system, and creating that content is expensive, managing it can be complicated, and that just adds to the problems with e-learning today. The next problem normally is around the speed to deploy learning programs. So with most learning management systems and the ways that those systems are made to be effective usually require a lot of planning and time in order to take full advantage of the capabilities. And the last problem that we often come across when we're talking about putting an e-learning program together is the fact that most people that are online today have short attention spans as it relates to consuming information. Information's coming at people at a high rate. So putting together a long course or using a traditional learning management system in order to develop a course, it just doesn't make sense for them. And a lot of times people don't really get the most out of it because their attention spans are short, and they need to try to get through them in a much shorter time than the average learning programs put together. So those are some of the main problems with e-learning today. So all of those things that I just mentioned, the problems that normally exist when you're trying to put together an online or e-learning program, those are the problems that we address head on. And when you're thinking about how you're going to be putting together your learning program, or how you want to go about getting content, or how you want to go about organizing it, all of those things are baked right into the software platform. So we take content from any place on the internet, whether it's for sale or for free, and we allow you to put it together very quickly into a catalog to present it as a microlearning experience. And that's the core of what we do, and that should be your thinking as you're thinking about how to put this program together. When you take away the restrictions that come along with how do I learn a new piece of software, or if you take away the restrictions related to how you're going to get your hands on good content to use in a learning program, it really opens up a lot of possibilities for you. And while you're putting together your program on our system, you should think about the fact that you'll be able to pull resources together from anywhere, audio, video, images, or text, from anywhere on the internet, and put it into our system and then serve it up as a micro-learning program. So let's talk a little bit more about microlearning and how to think about approaching the software when you're considering how you're going to organize the overall program. Microlearning really is about serving up information in short chunks, in short periods of time to students so that they can learn things very quickly and they can walk away feeling as if they have increased their skill set in a relatively short period of time. And going back to what I said about content in the previous slide, we really do focus on content aggregation and helping you to pull different pieces of information together in order to serve up a meaningful learning program. So in this case, this is an actual customer. This is an author, Rich Patnow, who put together a book called The Student Millionaire. It's a great book, and it is focused on helping kids learn concepts as it relates to entrepreneurship. And in this case, Richard put together this program that consisted of a video that he housed on YouTube, a blog article that he wrote on his own blog relating to the book, and then the actual book itself. So what you can see here is that by putting together these three pieces of information, they now are worth more than they would just individually. So if you take a look and think about the idea that someone would be able to come to our site, log in and view the video, view the blog, and read the book, and then get a certificate for that particular activity, then you can see how easy it is, and you can really start to see the power of and possibilities in terms of what you can accomplish. Now, in some cases, you may not necessarily use a book. You might use a video, a blog, and a podcast episode, or you might use a white paper instead of an actual book. In any case, the idea is to take pieces of content from anywhere on the internet and string them together, and then serve them up with a test attached. So before we get into some of the specifics as it relates to how to think about organizing content and how you're going to put that content into the system, let me just take a step back here and go through some of the features that you may or may not be aware of already, and talk about those features in terms of how you may want to fold them into the actual learning program. The first is we are e-commerce ready right out of the box. So as long as you have a paid plan and you have a Stripe account, you can go into our system and you can begin charging for the learning programs that you put together immediately. This is very important, obviously, because it allows you to think about how you're going to charge and monetize your content, but also that you can rely on the program as a platform for actually charging the customer before they view the content. The second feature that is important to note is our community function. And basically, the community function allows you to create a community around each learning program. And the reason that's so powerful is because when people consume knowledge, a lot of times they want to interact with other people that have consumed that same knowledge, or you may want your community to collaborate around the content itself and how they're using it in the field or in real life and day-to-day life. So by using the community function, people can access it's a feed that's very similar to a Facebook wall or a LinkedIn real-time feed that allows them to interact not just through email, but also real-time within the portal. And that's available to all students that pass a course. The next feature that I'm going to talk about is the choice between a course or point mode. Now, in course mode, which is the default mode, when you put resources into the system and you create tests around them, students have to view each resource and then take each test in order to pass. Point mode or catalog mode is a little bit different and very powerful in that you can create a list of content pieces that you create tests around, but you give each piece of content a point value, and you can set a threshold that whenever someone actually earns enough points, then they can earn their certificate or badge. And that is very important if you are trying to put together a continuing education program, or let's say you're putting together a certificate program for your membership and you want them to be eligible for certification by consuming content that you push out to them. So you can see how that can be a very powerful feature to use. And the final one is our branding system. Now the branding system is a very, very cool feature because it doesn't just let you put your logo on things. It actually lets you choose icons and banner images that you can use for each piece of content so that you can deliver the kind of experience that you want to your students. Now, these aren't all of our features, and in this particular presentation we're not going to get into the details of using those features. We'll do that in a later video, but this is just the idea is to give you a high-level overview of what some of our main features are and a high-level conceptual understanding of how you should be thinking when you are actually putting the program together. So let's talk about the high-level approach to deploying a learning program or microlearning program with CertSpring. It really does come down to 3 simple steps, and those steps are illustrated here. They can be done literally in minutes, and it's difficult to really understand that until we get into the specifics of how the program works. But just from a high level, I wanted to make sure I took a second and talk through around the actual steps themselves and what it takes to get going. So the first step is to get your content together, which really is a matter of getting the links together that you want to use for your learning program, whether it's audio, video, images, or text, blog articles, white papers, YouTube videos, podcasts, whatever it is that you're going to use, that you assemble those together. And we have a planner document that we use to help you organize things. It makes it go a little bit faster from an organization standpoint, because that really is the thing that takes the most amount of time, is getting organized around how you deploy it. You can do it in minutes. Obviously, the more learning components that you have, the more content pieces, the more questions, and the more links that you're going to use. Obviously, that's going to add time. But I've seen it done in as little as 10 minutes. But obviously, it can go along a lot longer than that, depending on what you're trying to do. So, step 1, creating the links to your content. Step 2 is creating your questions. Now, we have a fact-based question extraction methodology, which is just a fancy way of saying look for things that are factual and then be able to create true or false or multiple choice questions based on how high, how deep, what color, how much something weighed, was it on top, was it on the bottom. These are all things that you can quickly use to create these programs, and once you get the hang of it, you can get it done pretty quickly. And then the third step is to actually distribute the program. Now, what's important to know about the way our system works, I think one of the most important things to understand about the distribution is that everything is based on the URL that our software produces once you publish your learning program. So when you're done creating your content catalog and your questions, then you will go to publish the learning program, and at that point it's going to give you 2 URLs. One's going to be for registration, if you allow public registration for your program. The other is going to be the login link. Once you have that link, you can distribute it to anybody, and they will go directly to that test and be able to log in. We don't use the concept of a catalog in that you can't have someone log in and choose what tests they want. Every URL gets their own, every learning program gets its own URL, as you'll see when we get into the specifics. I don't want to get too deep into the details of that before we're actually in the software and I'm doing a demonstration. However, it's important to know that everything is URL based, and those are really the 3 steps that you have to go through in order to get something up, which can be done pretty quickly. So let's go a little bit deeper and talk about the components in terms of what you need to plan out and what information you need to have available when you go in to create your learning program. And I don't want to overcomplicate it by going too deep into the actual components themselves, but I do want to spend a little bit of time at a high level before we wrap up explaining to you what you need to be thinking about in terms of gathering information before you put this program together. So there's really three categories of components that you should understand before you go into create the program. Settings, which are the settings themselves for the overall learning program. The content resources, obviously you're going to need information about what resources you're going to be accessing. And then thirdly, the questions and answers that you're going to want to have available to plug into the system. These are the things that you're going to need to have before you go in. If you have these, you can plug them in very, very quickly and be up and running in very little time. So let's talk about this for a second. Again, when we do the video demonstration of the actual software itself in a later video, we'll have more details on what it looks like. But again, for this video, we're just focusing on high-level concepts so you know what to be thinking about as it relates to getting the program together. So for settings, you're going to want an overall description of the learning program. It should be somewhere around 200 characters in length. Not too long. I think the most it can be is about 400 characters. But you'll want an overall description that explains what the goal is of the program and what you're trying to accomplish with it, so that when your students log in, they see that on the dashboard. The second is you're going to want a logo, and it's going to need to be about 200 pixels by 200 pixels or smaller, and you'll use this logo to put on your front page for logging in, or you'll be using that logo on, I'm sorry, that logo itself will be used on your certificate when it's downloaded. The next thing is we have the ability to limit time, so you'll want to think through if you want to do limits on time or not in terms of how much time it takes someone to pass a test. You'll want to understand, I mentioned course mode versus catalog mode earlier, so you'll want to have decided if you want to use a course or catalog mode with points. And lastly, your e-commerce information. So you'll need to be signed up with Stripe. You can find out more about that at www.stripe.com and have your key available to put into the software so that you can enable e-commerce. The next category of components that you're going to need to have ready are the actual content resources. And those are simply going to be the links to the content themselves, a 1 to 200 word description of the content and why you're showing that content, or whatever description you want to put, a title icon, which is an icon that will be next to the title of the content resource, and then a title image, which is really a small banner image that is used to convey sort of the message around what it is that you're trying to show. It could be a themed, it could be a color, it could be an abstract image. And then the last category of components is the questions and answers, and it really is that simple. You want to have at least two choices, two questions, and for your learning program, and it's either going to be multiple choice or true or false, and that's really all you need to have ready. We have a content planner that we use to help you plan that out. It's very, very simple. Once you have the information together, you plug it in, you're up and running. And it really is plug and play and easy to do. All right, so before we wrap up, let's just go ahead and recap some of the things we've talked about and go over some of the high-level concepts again. So microlearning is about short, quick lessons. Our focus is quickly and easily creating learning programs. So you're going to be able to log on, put your information in, and spin these up pretty quickly. By removing the need to work with content, it really lets anybody get it done. So regardless of who you are in the organization or what you're trying to accomplish, as long as you can cut and paste and use an internet web browser, you have the qualifications to build the learning program using our system. We have several powerful features that will help you to roll your learning program out different ways depending on what it is that you're trying to do. And you've learned that deployment is fast and easy, and what kinds of things that you need to know in order to get into the software, plug the information in, and get going. In later videos, we'll talk about the specifics in terms of how you get this done and how the software works. But for today, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you very much for taking the time to view the video, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here again.